welcome back to Wild and Free Art. Today I'm going to show you how to make book cloth. The first thing you need to do is make sure that your fabric is cut to the right size and washed and ironed. Book cloth is important when you're making a book because it helps to protect the cover, and rather than gluing fabric directly onto your chipboard, if you make it into book cloth, you're actually making it more resistant, a bit more waterproof, stronger, and you're making sure that you don't see the glue marks underneath it and that it doesn't get discolored over time. So it's always a good idea to take one time a month or something to get any of the fabrics that you want washed, ironed, and turned into book cloth. Now, once I'm done ironing all of these, I am going to get ready to take the next step, which is making wheat paste.
Hey everyone, so I'm going to show you how to make wheat paste today to make your own book cloth. It's super easy to make, it takes 10 minutes, and I'm pretty sure you have everything that you need in your house. So all that you'll need is water, plain flour, a pot, measuring cup, measuring spoons, a whisk, and an essential oil to preserve. So you can use melaleuca, tea tree oil, clove oil, oregano, peppermint. There's a number of oils that have antifungal properties and they just help it to preserve a bit better. I've decided to use clove oil rather than my melaleuca just because I like the smell better. So it's really easy to do. All you need to do to start with is 1 cup of water. So that's 250 ml metric. And you're just going to pour it into your pot and pop it on the stove to heat up. So while that's heating up, you are going to add three tablespoons of flour into your measuring cup. Doesn't have to be exact. Is that 2 or 3? That was 3, right? I hope so. So yeah, 3 of those. And then you're going to want to add another 3 tablespoons of cold water, not hot water. So 1, 2, and 3. And then you're going to want to mix it together. Probably a smaller whisk or a spoon would be better than this, until you have a nice paste that's smooth with no lumps. I am going to go with a spoon. Depending on how dry it is, you may or may not need more water to make a paste, and it's been really dry here. It's really hot. It's like 25 degrees already. So I'm going to need to add more water. But if it's raining, then you'll find that your flour is already damp enough and it won't need much more water. So in the end, I think I've used 6 tablespoons of water. But what you want to get is a nice smooth paste without any lumps. So I've got a couple lumps there. It's kind of like pancake batter. All right. So I think that's pretty good. You can just get rid of the lumps by pressing it up on the side. So that's looking pretty good. So now we're going to move to the stove. Okay, so I'm back at the stove. Now my water has started to boil, so I'm just going to take it off the heat a minute, and I'm going to slowly pour in my wheat mixture, my flour mixture, while stirring constantly. All right. So when you put it in, you see it kind of goes translucent. So now I'm just going to put it back on the heat again and keep stirring it until it comes back to a boil. Stopping every once in a while to check the bubbles. Okay, we're starting to bubble a little bit. So at this point, you're going to want to turn it off and set it aside to cool. Don't put the essential oil in yet. You'll put it in about, I don't know, 5-6 minutes or so when it started to cool down a bit. Now while it's cooling, you can go and prepare your cloths and your workspace. So now we're ready to make our book cloth. So what you need is the fabric that you're going to use for your book cloth, which has been washed and ironed. You're going to need plastic, so like cereal liners work great. These little plastic sheets work great. You can also use grease-proof oven paper, just something that it won't stick to. I like using the plastic, especially for one way of doing the book cloth, because I like the shiny thing that it gives on the back. Which obviously, I have no idea how it happens, but it only happens on the plastic, not on the oven paper. So I tend to use the oven paper for pieces that have a paper backing on them. And you're going to need your backing paper. So here I just have plain old tissue paper. People use rice paper, lots of other different kinds of paper as a backing, but as I said before, I prefer to use recycled and materials that I already have. So this is just leftover tissue paper from my move. You're also going to want a paintbrush and a little spritz bottle, and of course your cooled wheat paste that we've made. So just before we get started, I'm going to add a couple drops of my essential oil, and I'm just going to mix that in. Now the pot is probably still very hot still, so just be careful, or you can move it into like a jar, which I'm going to use to store my leftover wheat paste, and I'll use that as glue for the rest of my projects this week, but I'll tell you more about that later. So as I mentioned before, there's different ways of making book cloth for your books. My favorite way is just to put the wheat paste directly on the cloth and let it sit. However, there are some cases where I prefer to use the actual paper behind it. So that would be the case, for example, the stretchy fabrics like this, because if you just put the wheat paste on, it will crack when you stretch it. Whereas the paper, it gives it something to adhere to, and you're gluing the paper onto your covers, and so it won't crack so badly. I also use the paper on like sheer fabrics, or in the case of this one here, cross-stitch fabric, because I want to just add an extra layer of protection on this, and it also makes it smoother. So the first technique I'm going to show you is going to be the one with the paper, since that's the fabric I just pulled out. So I'm just going to pop these to the side. So what you need is a piece of plastic or your oven paper that is big enough for your cloth, and for the paper. And it really is quite easy, just you need some patience. So this is just a cereal liner. Cereal liners have two sides, one that's less shiny and one that's more shiny. I prefer the shiny side, so just check it. It gives more of that shine on the bottom. And so what I just do is spritz a smidge of water on here. That just helps the tissue paper to kind of stick on and not move around so much. Okay, and then I'm just going to start putting some of the paste onto my paper, starting from the middle and moving out so as to keep it as smooth as possible. It's okay if the paper rips a bit, because it's tissue paper and you know, you're not really going to see that piece, but just make sure that you have it covered. This clove oil smells so nice. You'll see that the paper changes color a little bit, so you know where you've actually put the paste on. Okay, and once you have the paste on, just carefully place down your fabric. Making sure it's nice and flat and smooth. Some people use a brayer or a roller to keep it flat. I'm just happy with my hands because I don't mind getting dirty. So always make sure that when you use paper, it's bigger than your cloth because you're going to need to be able to take it off, cut it around, and all of that. So now the next step is to add another layer of wheat paste onto your cloth. So don't be afraid to overdo it, it's fine. I figure it's just more resistance, honestly. I'm not an expert by any means, but so again, you're going to go from the center and work your way outwards. And in my case, I'm just dabbing around the the embroidery for this one. Just to make sure I get all of the stitching done too. So I feel that this one is pretty well covered. So now I'm going to go set it aside to dry, and we're going to work on one that is just the paste without the paper. So again, lining side up, and you're going to want to get your cloth. In this case, I could probably get away with doing two on one page. Yes. So I can do two on one piece of plastic here with these. So this one is pretty much the same concept, except you're putting two coats on the same piece of cloth. So the first thing you're going to want to do is coat the bottom part of your cloth with your wheat paste. Again, start from the center, work your way out. So that one's been coated, and now I'm going to turn it over, lay it in position, making sure there's no wrinkles. It does get quite sticky, so yeah, making sure it's flat. And then I'm going to do another coat on the top, just like the other one. So that's this one done with the two of them here. So I'm going to go put this one to dry, and then I'm going to work on the other cloths, and I will be right back. Once you're done using your wheat paste, You can always save the rest of it in a clean jar, and you can keep it in the fridge for up to, I would say, 5-6 days tops, even with the oil in there as a preservative. But it works just like any glue. You can use it. It's really, really good. It dries matte, not shiny. And the only thing is it takes quite a while to dry. So if you are using it as regular glue, just keep that in mind. Don't do it on something where you need the glue to dry quickly. So yeah, that's it. When you're done with the wheat paste, you have extra glue to use for extra things. Okay, so these are the book cloths all ready to go and just drying here. Yeah, usually I leave them for about 24 hours, but with the heat that we have today, they might even be dry in a couple hours, and I can show you then. If not, I will show you the results tomorrow.
So here it's the next day, and they are all nice and dry. I'm just going to be peeling the pieces of book cloth off of the backings to show you what they all look like. You see here I just pulled one off of the paper. You can see the stiffness of it and how nice and solid it is. Here's another one off the paper. And this one was on the plastic, so you can see, I don't know if it picks up properly on the camera, but you can kind of see how it's shiny, and that gives it a nice waterproof coat, and it's nice and solid still. So I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to make book cloth. Let me know what you think in the comments if you have any questions. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and happy crafting. See you soon.